good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Malik Show. I am your host, Malik Shabazz Sullivan. I am so glad that you have decided to come on and see about me and the show on tonight. Happy Wednesday, February the 27th, and Black History Month, Love Month. We're almost in March, finally. But tonight, we have a show for you, but tonight we have an amazing special guest, an amazing preacher, good friend and brother of mine, Pastor Ronzel Pretlow of Newport News, Virginia. He is live with us on tonight with an amazing special interview and much more of him. But he is live, he is with us on tonight. But just before we get with Pastor Pretlow on tonight, you know the Malik Show got to kick off Hot Topics. We have two hot topics that will amaze your mind and your energy on tonight as our producer kicks off our first segment. Picture. There we go. A couple weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, I had came into the studio and I was told about one of my favorite Empire stars, the one and only JUSSIE Smollett. As you all know, JUSSIE was in an accident back in Chicago in his hometown. He was jumped by two guys and, he was transported to the hospital and so on and so forth. But just before we talk about JUSSIE, but as I have some information, new information that you all did not even know. Well, you probably know national-wise, but you don't know as the Malik Show-wise. But again, the past several weeks, JUSSIE was in an assault case. The whole news has been talking about it. On 2 a.m., January the 29th, he was attacked by two masked men. They hung him with a noose and they poured bleach on him. Before we go any further, we have some clips of JUSSIE in a recent interview on ABC, and right now our producer of the Malik Show is going to show those clips to you all. Producer, give us clip one.
Heard as I was crossing the intersection, I heard Empire. I don't answer to Empire. My name ain't Empire. And I didn't answer. I kept walking, and then I heard Empire. So I turned around and I said, "Did you just say to me?" And I see the attacker masked, and he said, "This MAGA country punches me right in the face." So I punched his ass back. And then we started tussling. It was very icy. And we ended up tussling by the stairs. Fighting. There was a second person involved who was kicking me in my back. And then it just stopped. And they ran off. And I saw where they ran. And the phone was in my pocket, but it had fallen out. And it was sitting there. And my manager was still on the phone. So I picked up the phone and I said, "Brandon." And he's like, "What's going on?" And I said, "I was just jumped." And then I looked down and I see that there's a rope around my neck, which I hadn't obviously.
You hadn't noticed it before?
No,
You didn't
because
see?
it was so fast. You know what I'm saying? It was so fast.
How long did this all
It felt
take?
like minutes, but it probably was like 30 seconds, honestly. I can't tell you, honestly. I noticed the rope around my neck and I started screaming. And I said, "There's a rope around my neck."
Did you get any kind of description of the attacker?
I gave a body description, and because I saw this, right here or whatever, but I didn't see, I can't tell you what color their eyes were. I can't tell you, and I did not see anything except the second person.
Well, JUSSIE was explaining in that first clip that, of course, he was attacked by two attackers he did not know. And, he basically stated that MAGA country, and as you all know, MAGA stands for Making America Great Again, Donald John Trump. But anyway, he had another clip of the same interview, but he had more details into it. Give us clip two.
MAGA hats. I never said that. I didn't need to add anything like that. They called me a. They called me. There's no which way you cut it. I don't need some MAGA hat as the cherry on top of some racist sundae. I've heard that it was a date gone bad, which I so resent that narrative. I'm not gonna go out and get a tuna sandwich at a salad to meet somebody. That's ridiculous, and it's offensive. Yes, there's Grindr, yes, there's Jacked, yes, there's all of these things, which I have not been on in years. I can admit that I was on that back in the day. I was single, you know what I'm saying? But I have not been on that in years. But aside from that, it's offensive. And I absolutely resent that narrative because it's bull. It's bull. And it's unfair. It's unfair to the investigation. It's unfair to, I hate this word, but it's unfair to the victim.
What were your injuries? What were
they did x-rays. I didn't have, it was reported that I had like fractured ribs or cracked ribs or something like that. That wasn't true. I was just in a lot of pain. You know, my clavicle was messed up, my rib was bruised, but nothing was cracked. Like I walked into the.
Well, he said his injuries was cracked. You know, as you saw, they cut his face and all. But here's this last video of him getting kind of the emotional part. Let's take a look.
Learn to be a fighter. I am not advocating violence at all. So let's be clear about that. If you're gonna die, fight until you do. Because if you don't fight, you have no chance. I have fought for love. I'm an advocate. I respect too much the people who I am now one of those people who have been attacked in any way. You do such a disservice when you lie about things like this.
If the attackers are never found, how will you be able to heal?
I don't know. Let's just hope that they are.
After seeing those clips, yes, we feel bad for him, but as you all know, just recently, we have got some breaking news that Jussie had staged this whole crime scene as far as well, here, let me just read you all the right receipts. Jussie Smollett was stated that he had made a check out of $33,500 to two guys to jump him. And I'm telling you, this has went abroad. But it also stated that both of these guys were Nigerian. They said that Smollett had paid them. They also said that, you know, so on and so forth. Here is another video clip of the whole thing being planned. Take a look.
Smollett is facing a disorderly conduct charge for filing a false report. Police say he may have staged the incident himself. Our CBS Chicago station WBBM obtained this surveillance video of two brothers who say they were hired by Smollett to carry out the assault.
All right,
The pair can be seen buying ski masks and other items before the alleged attack. WBBM News Radio.
That was a surveillance video of the two guys in the store getting ski masks and more. But here is the last video clip of Empire OWN stating that Jussie has been released of the last two episodes for the season, which Empire comes back on next month in March sometime. Jussie has been cut off for 2 episodes. Here is the last clip of the night revolving our very own Jussie Smollett.
We have decided to remove the role of Jamal from the final 2 episodes of the season, end quote. Again, from part of our company here at Fox. That statement coming from the PR department just a moment ago.
Listen, if I tell the truth, then that's it, because it's the truth.
Police have questioned those 2 men in the surveillance image. Well, tonight, those 2 brothers now claim that Smollett paid them to orchestrate the homophobic and racist attack.
He said, this MAGA country punches me right in the face. I noticed the rope around my neck and I started screaming. And I said, there's a rope around my neck.
I'm left hanging my head and asking why. Why would anyone, especially an African-American man, use the symbolism of a noose to make false accusations?
It's coming from the President of the United States. When I heard about what had happened to Jussie, and I heard they put a rope around him and they poured bleach on him and stuff, I was absolutely very upset.
How could someone look at the hatred and suffering associated with that symbol and see an opportunity to manipulate that symbol to further his own public profile?
If the attackers are never found, how will you be able to heal?
Well, to end this topic, I personally believe that, this could be my opinion. You can agree with it or not. I believe Jussie is innocent in this. I could be wrong. I mean, of course, in black and white, they said that he paid them to do this. So, but beyond that, again, our prayers still go out with Jussie Smollett. We hope that things get better for him. And for Empire's sake, you better keep him because he does make up 50% of the show. That's just my opinion. But Jussie has our prayers and hope that he gets well and pray that this whole mess just blows. But producer's going to move on through some pictures and stuff. Yes, that's Jussie in Chicago. As you know, he has been released from jail, and there you see the press is all on him. Moving on to the next picture. Those are the two guys that actually that jumped him. So. But moving on, we're moving on. It is, before we go on, our special guest, Ronzel Pretlow, is still with us. He's still bearing on. He knows the Malik show. Got to get these topics out. But yes, we cannot wait for this interview with him. He's still with us. As you can see, he's live. Actually, he's on our cameras. But keep holding on, Pretlow. Don't go anywhere. You still on our main line on tonight. But the last hot topic for tonight, how many of you watched the Oscars? My God, how many? Well, I'm going to make this real fast and real sweet. Hollywood's biggest night, which took place on this past Sunday, February the 24th at the Dolby Theater in Los Angeles, California. From Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper's duet to Regina King, Queen of the Night, and to Billy Porter's amazingly appearance. Come Through Oscars was a show. Let's talk fashion and the highlights. Now, as you all know, Malik Shabazz Sullivan is a man of fashion and a man of taste. I want to give some good kudos to some of Hollywood's biggest stars that was dressed on the Oscars. Now, Glenn Close is kicking off our first one. As you can see, she's dressed. I have to turn this way. But here she is right here. For those of you that wanted to know what Glenn was wearing, she was wearing a Carolina Herrera by Wes Gordon and a Cartier jewelry. Moving on to our next pick. Angela Bassett, my God. Well, Angela Bassett was in a custom Reem Acra. I think that's the name of the designer, but she is in a beautiful pink gown, and I believe Angela is in her 60s now. Jesus Christ, I mean, that is just black and power and just looking good for her age. So, Lady Angela, you gave it to us on Sunday night. Let's move on to our next one. Lady Gaga, she was all black, classy, gloves, long gown. Lady Gaga was in an Alexander McQueen and Tiffany and Jewelry Company. We take our hat off to Lady Gaga. We're moving on to the next one. Spike Lee. We want to congratulate him on winning an award, but Spike was in a Jaguar LaCour suit, and of course he got his Air Jordans and stuff, and he was rocking that purple. Kudos to Spike Lee. We're moving on to the next one. Black Panther's own Chadwick Boseman. I really cannot explain what he's appeared to be in, but it's different, it's classy, it's dressy, and we give best dress kudos to him. Let's move on to our next one. The one and only Billy Porter. When I saw this, I almost fell on the floor, and I must say the Kojic girls might pull this off at Women's Convention or AIM. I shouldn't have said that. But Billy came through with a black velvet ball gown, traditional top. I felt it was nice, though, so I will give kudos to that. That was sharp. Let's move on to the next one. Mother Cicely Tyson was dressed all the way up, and something like this, I mean, a 90-some-year-old woman is still coming through with fashion and grace and poise. Lady Cicely Tyson, you were sharp. Let's move on to our next one. Lady Regina King was, I call her the queen of the night because not only she won an award, but she has definitely gave us an amazing speech and also an amazing attire. But for those that are wondering, Lady Regina King was in an Oscar de la Renta evening gown with the Christian Louboutin shoes. I hope I said that right. Moving on to our next one. Jennifer Lopez then stole the show, and Tom Ford, you did your thing. J-Lo, you have let them have it. J-Lo was one of the top ones that was on point. Let's move on to our next one. Jason Momoa, he pretty much rocked that suit. Now, something like that, I could wear it to St. Louis for the Holy Convocation. I wouldn't wear it to the summertime events, but he was sharp. I like what he came through this picture right here. Let's move on to our next one. That is it. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is time. We're going to miss the videos and stuff, but we want to get to our special guest. We got so much to talk with our special guest on tonight, but he is here. He is live. He couldn't be here with us in person, but he is live. I call it the Malik Show Live. You don't need to know all of that. But ladies and gentlemen, I give you Newport News' own Pastor Ronzel Pretlow.
God bless you. God bless you.
Pastor, I am so glad to have you on tonight. I'm glad you bear with us through these topics, but in this 10 minutes on Blessed Again, we have a part 2 show, which is all about you. I'm going to read his bio, and from that point on, we will get to know Pastor Pretlow a little more. But producer, as I read Pastor Ronzel Pretlow Sr. is a true gift to the body and his generation. Born the 8th of 9 children, he was raised in strict holiness upbringing. His father, Dr. Harold Pretlow, pastored a small rural church for 38 years. When a successor was needed, Ronzel was called on. Pretlow took a small 8-member church to an absolute explosion. Seemingly overnight, the church grew, largely because of his national presence and hit song, It Overflows, performed at Azusa in the early 2000s in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The anointing became evident to the nation. Favor began to follow and doors began to open. Known for his gifted expression, explosive, and his revelatory style of prophetic preaching. He was gifted expression, explosive, and revelatory style, teaching of his spiritual father, the one and only Apostle Al Jones of Norfolk, Virginia. While attending Norfolk Seminary and college, a fully credited local branch of Virginia Union University and Norfolk State, Pretlow has also sit on the board of leaders for mental and emotional health in Newport News, Virginia. He is also permanent presence at the Children's Hospital of the King's Daughters as a liaison of religious helps. His deep belief in the spiritual of God go hand in with conviction for the mental health. He is the author of the book Emotional Health 101, Deliver Us from Crazy, written in 2014. Pretlow coined the phrase that this generation that needs not only prayer but proper mental evaluation. Pastor Pretlow is a member of the Maryland Eastern Shore jurisdiction under his father-in-law, the one and only Bishop Paul Harmon. Jurisdiction prelate, he is the one and only husband. I hope I hope. I'm gonna just say this, Lady Harmon Pretlow. I don't want to mispronounce nobody's name. Daughter of the jurisdiction prelate. They share 4 beautiful children: Jareen, Lyric, Ronzel Jr., Harmony, and London. They reside in Newport News, Virginia. Now, it's interview time, and in this last 7 minutes, we are going to talk with Dr. Pretlow on childhood. And then on our second part 2 show, we're going to go on, so on and so forth. But Ronzel, I'm glad to have you on. And as our producer is showing this, we have a childhood picture of you sitting in a nice white chair, white turtleneck jeans, and some nice glasses. So if you mind sharing with us, tell us what your childhood was like.
I had a very interesting childhood. I had a musical childhood, being the 8th of 9 children, coming from a musical family. We always had music around, very involved in the church. And I always knew that I wanted to be a preacher. I guess that's why I'm poised in that chair like a preacher. But had a very good childhood, a very strict upbringing. My father was always present, and my mother was always there for us to ensure that we walked in the ways of God.
That's awesome. And of course, you were born and raised in Newport News, Virginia, if I'm correct.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. So let me ask you this. Even in your childhood, I mean, of course, you were born and raised in strict holiness in the church. But was there ever a time where Ronzel can just be Ronzel? And what I personally mean by that is school dances, parties, all of that, even, to your upbringing in your teens, because we're going somewhere.
Absolutely not. Never. Growing up, that was a no-no. We couldn't play sports. We had to be in the house when the street light came on. If you're from the country and you go back about 30 years ago, you understand what the street light was. Whenever the city street light came on, we had to be headed toward the house. So no, we weren't allowed to party. We weren't allowed to dance secularly. Even though it was strict today at 41, looking back on that upbringing, I thank God for the walls that kept me secure enough that I wouldn't be anything else but what God wanted me to be now.
Awesome. That is so awesome. Well, here's my next question. And producer, like I say, childhood. My last question related to childhood and upbringing is, let's say, now looking at this picture here, we see that, I guess you were what, 5, 6, 7 years old in this?
Yes.
Well, let's say this. Were you always a good child? Have you ever gotten discipline and that kind of stuff? I mean, were you always the golden child? Let's put it like that.
I was a good child, but I had a mischievous side. One particular incident I remember. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
One particular incident I remember breaking a classmate's glasses when I was about 7 years old. I got angry and I broke a classmate's glasses. I stomped on them at the playground. And I don't remember the rest of that day because my mother handled me.
Uh-oh.
But I wasn't a bad child. I had mischievous moments.
Well, don't we all, Pastor? Well, we're going to move on to the next picture. We're 3 minutes into our first half of the show, but we got so much to talk about with Pastor Pretlow, so much to talk about. But producer, we are going to talk about his family and stuff on the part 2. We want him to have prime time. But yeah, let's keep it right there. Well, Pastor, let's talk about as far as, okay, we talked about your childhood. Let's talk about education and stuff because we feel it's very important that, where did you graduate school and where did you pursue college or some type of backbone as far as preaching and, that's what you wanted to do?
Well, I was born and raised in Smithfield and Newport News, Virginia. I graduated from Smithfield High School and then I got married really early.
Oh yes, we can't wait to talk about the marriage part. You know, because we definitely have a line of pictures and stuff, and we definitely can't wait for that. But go ahead.
I got married early, and Talisha is not my wife of destiny. I was married previous to Talisha, who has been and is the love of my life. So I had children, and I began the journey of taking care of my children early on in my life. Later on in life, I would go to Norfolk Seminary and College and obtain my bachelor's degree. Now in my 40s, I'm pursuing my master's, and I believe that my 40s are my years to complete my master's and even on into my doctorate. By 50 years old, I would like to be officially Dr. Ronzel Pretlow. It's a goal of mine to do.
Dr. Ronzel Pretlow, that sounds grand. Grand, grand, grand. Well, I believe that it will happen for you, and it's going to happen, though. You know, just got to stay focused and stay and maintain. But we are 1 minute into our first half of our show. But again, Pastor Ronzel Pretlow is here. He is live with us, and on part 2 of the Malik Show, we are going to talk. I'm glad we got his childhood and education, but on the next episode of the Malik Show, part 2, we are going to talk with Pastor Pretlow on his marriage and family. We're going to talk to Pastor Pretlow about ministry and his church. We're going to talk to him about one of the biggest organizations in the whole entire world, the Grand Old Church of God in Christ. We have some pictures of some celebrities and gospel artists, bishops and preachers. When Pretlow, I'm telling you, Pretlow knows some. Listen, I may be I've been named National Zone, but Pretlow knows some people too. And we share the same room as friends with some of these people. But I can't wait for part 2. We have an amazing show. Pastor Pretlow is here. We can't wait to really get into the nitty gritty. But Pastor Pretlow, going back to you, I thank you for bearing with us on this first segment of the Malik Show. And we're looking forward to part 2. And the whole show is going to feature the one and only Pastor Ronzel Pretlow of Newport News, Virginia.
Absolutely, no problem. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you all for tuning in. This is the Malik Show Live. Thank you all for watching part 1. Again, prayers go out to JUSSIE SMOLETT. Congratulations to the Oscar-winning nominees in great fashion. And tune back and come back for part 2 of the Malik Show. I'm your host, Malik Shabazz Sullivan. Come back for part 2. Pastor Ronzel Pretlow.